Today, we are focusing on the nervous system. And one of the pieces that I didn't really go into in our movement medicine program was the social nervous system, which is the work of polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges. And then Peter Levine did a lot of work on this today, and not today, sorry. Today we're doing work on this is what I'm trying to say, but in the past. So this is something that I just think is really useful. And I put a little article in our movement medicine members group up about it, which is a little bit sciencey. But previously when we've talked about the nervous system, and we're going to get moving pretty soon because nervous system work really, the movement is truly really is medicine, as well as cultivating a felt sense of safety, which sometimes we need to like really tell ourselves to cultivate. Naming emotions, speaking them out loud, which is why I had you do that, is also really, really useful and really important. And so when we're thinking in all the little anatomy videos that I've shared with you, and in the wisdom interview with Carrie Parsons, where she's talking about the adaptive responses of the nervous system, those are all good resources and videos, but it's looking at they look at the nervous system in a fairly black and white way, where we have, and when I'm talking about the nervous system, I'm talking about the autonomic nervous system, which contains the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So the fight, flight, sympathetic. Parasympathetic is more of our kind of freeze, when the dead animal plays dead. That's considered more the parasympathetic response. And our body is constantly modulating the behavior of our organs, and our brain, this dance, constantly moving between the two branches of the sympathetic, parasympathetic, modulating every moment, so that blood is flowing to certain places or blood is not flowing to certain places. For example, when you're stressed, you don't digest well because your body perceives you not to be needing to digest food, but to be maybe running away or shutting down potentially. But when we just look at those different branches of the parasympathetic is more the freeze response, so the sympathetic is our fight, run away response, we do a disservice to the parasympathetic nervous system. Through evolution, the parasympathetic nervous system has evolved more, and there is a part of the parasympathetic nervous system that is modulating around social connection. And social connection as human creatures is so important. It's vital. So actually to do a movement practice where we're moving together, to share our experiences together, it is wired into our nervous system as a wellness tool. So actually doing these having these group classes is not just a nice thing that we do, that we show up to, but actually is so good for us. So showing up to class and being present in this way is nervous system food, as well as the movement that we do. And the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, it is thought that the vagus nerve, the vagus is the Latin word for wandering. The vagus nerve comes from our brainstem, from just behind the ears, and it travels down, it wanders through the body, it wanders down through the neck, it wanders into the chest, it innervates the lungs and the heart, it goes down through the diaphragm, it innervates 3/4 of the digestive organs. And a lot of the vagus nerve is actually, it brings information up to the brain. So we often think, at least in my mind, I think of nerves as being kind of action, like telling your body what to do. But a huge part of nerves is actually receiving information, feeding back into the brain how things are. And the vagus nerve is a nerve that is actually more about receiving than it is about telling. And that's just an aside, kind of just an interesting piece about the vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve has two parts to it. It has a little slightly more anterior part and a slightly more posterior part. That's just kind of some anatomy, but one of those parts, I believe it's the anterior part, is the more modern part of the vagus nerve. So one part of the vagus nerve is about the freeze response. And one interesting analogy that's in the article that I shared with you is, if you think, some people in depression can be in this freeze response where everything's just so shut down, sometimes, not all the time. And when they come out of a depression, sometimes they'll go into more of a jittery anxiety state. That is more of a sympathetic response. You can see it just as kind of an example showing how parasympathetic, that one part of the parasympathetic is kind of freezing, shutting down, and then the sympathetic is more of a jittery anxiety kind of response. But then if we overlay and go forwards into the parasympathetic part that is the more modern, newer evolutionary part, that actually is another response which is more about cueing into the social connection, where we are reading each other's facial expressions. We are hearing the tone of voice. Tone of voice is so important. Our breath is part of this. So if I'm talking to you like this and I'm talking in this voice, that's so stressful, obviously. And it's stressful because of this more modern part of the vagus nerve that cues our body to know when we are in relationship that is safe and soothing, or when we are in relationship that is not that. So for ourselves, the simple acts of exhaling longer than inhaling, if we're doing this, kind of panting and breathing and talking really fast, people who just, you're like, holy shit, take an exhale, like stop, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's really important that people exhale and pause for a moment between sentences, because our parasympathetic vagus nerve really appreciates that, both for ourselves and for other people. So, for example, last week I was getting my hair done, and the two hairstylists here in town are they're just really fast, busy people. And sometimes I can be fast and too busy. So I know that state, but it just really, when you're with someone like that, just know that they're in a state of really heightened sympathetic activity. And if you tend towards that yourself, remind yourself to make your breath, make yourself longer. Your breath, the exhale being longer than the inhale, immediately triggers the vagus nerve to calm down. Gargling as well stimulates the back of the throat, which helps to stimulate the vagus nerve into a more soothed state. The sound of chanting as well, that using our voice, doing vocal exercises equally, is really, really helpful. And there's kind of fancy tools as well that people can actually put in their ears, because some people actually can't process sound properly to soothe the vagus nerve. And I think probably all of us can, but that's part of why when we're listening to soothing sounds of nature or a voice that's soothing within our inner ear, that is feeding into our brain to tell our brains that we're okay. And similarly, a pleasant facial expression is very nice to people. So we must have pleasant facial expressions as much as possible when we want to create a calming, safe environment. And then using our voice to, sometimes when we don't feel safe, just allow yourself to say, I feel whatever the thing is, I feel this. To say it out loud, to hear those words, is a helpful tool to bring ourselves to safety. So a bunch over and over and over again, as we've been going through our movement medicine practice, I keep talking about cultivating a sense of safety. And it really, from a physiological, anatomical standpoint, that's why there is very real science to the simplicity of cultivating a sense of safety. And it is sometimes when we're stuck in the more older parts of the parasympathetic kind of freeze response, or the sympathetic anxiety response, it can take 10 to 20 minutes to really intentionally balance ourselves, which we can do through movement. And I find, usually for me and what I observe of clients when I do hands-on work, that it's a good 10 minutes really, but we can actually make it a little bit less time when we come into thinking about our social nervous system. And to cultivate that, doing some of the voice work is useful, but also to tell yourself you are safe and cultivate a sense of playfulness, because the social nervous system has this aspect of play. And another example that's in the article that I sent you is dogs, looking at dogs. So sometimes dogs will be really aggressive, and sometimes they'll be shy, and sometimes they'll be playful, as with any animal. And it's that playful dog kind of behavior that bypasses those other forms of adaptive behaviors to bring us into a state more quickly, a state of ease. Any questions on that? Okay, so what I want to do is to do some movement, and let's do some ohms first of all, a few ohms, and then we're going to do our star dance. And I want to also do stuff that's pretty familiar today, but really with a little bit of a fresh mindset. I want to give you stuff that the movements you know, but cultivate a fresh mindset of thinking about the social nervous system and perhaps being able to cultivate a sense of playfulness, curiosity, even curiosity in the movements, a sense of freshness, as though you're doing the movements for the first time that you know well. So we'll do our star movement. We're also going to do the horizon one. I've been doing this a bit with you, Marnie, but I just really want to, let's just clear out the cobwebs in our brains, in our hearts, in our bellies. And as we do the horizon movement, which is really what we'll do, is we'll bring intentional kind of energy from down, and we'll bring it from below as well. I will suggest the places that I want you to put your hands, but you may feel, as you move your hands up and down, you may feel called to another place in your body. So go with what you feel called to do. And the same thing with our star space clearing. There's been a few classes where we've done the space clearing, and I remember ages ago I was inviting you with the hands to do the star, but then also to paint bigger stars, smaller stars, maybe other things in the space around you. So I'm going to talk through that to bring in a little bit more the sense of curiosity and just see what comes in. We are all such creative beings, and it always amazes me in class that the creativity that gets brought in for each of us in different ways, and then the sharing of that is so enriching and nourishing. So we're going to do some soothing work, some creative and clearing work, and just some movement, because movement is medicine in the simplest form of moving inflammation and stagnation out of every joint and tissue in the body. And one more piece before we start moving is a softness in movement, that we don't need to push against a hard edge. I really want you to notice in yourself today, as you're moving, where you come up against your own pushiness. And sometimes it's a pushiness in I'm going to muscle through this movement, or sometimes I really need to stretch, I'm going to stretch. I want you to cultivate in these movements ease and potency. So energy can be cultivated and expressed in a way that isn't pushy. And again, this is something that's been really cool. And in the few one-on-ones that Marnie and I have been doing, where we're noticing in both of our systems the tendency of the kind of type A personality to push, and break. And movement offers such an interesting opportunity to move with softness and energy in a way to really nourish our bodies, our nervous systems, and not just our nervous systems, but our hormones. When we are depleted, when our stress hormones kind of deplete us, they really mess with our female hormones. And so we get really out of whack with our feminine cycles when we are stressed. And our libido goes kind of out the window, drained down into some abyss of nothingness. And so, stress is this fascinating thing which has deep, deep physiological repercussions and is embedded, absolutely embedded and ingrained in how we've all been raised culturally. And so there is an untangling process that we all need to do, and plenty of science to really back up and inform how we can shift ourselves, and in very, very, very simple ways to allow ourselves to be more creative, to be more energized, and to have less pain and inflammation in our body. And I think some of the really important autoimmune work is doing this nervous system work. The autoimmune symptoms arise out of a state of our body being out of balance and out of states of depletion. When we flare up, that is a sign of depletion. So we need to build our reserves. So, Polly, let's balance. Let's balance. And the signs and the symptoms are really good signs and symptoms of us needing to do more balancing, both through the movement practices that we do, the mindful practices that we do, the eating practices that we have, and our time in nature and sunlight, and our time in connection. Rich connection is vital. All right. Questions, thoughts, or are we just ready to move? Yes,
I just wanted to say, before I forget, this is extremely interesting, and I don't want to distract you from your flow, but I have noticed that I speak more slowly in France. When I speak French slowly anyway, because my brain's trying to keep up, and everyone around me speaks fast, and it's very easy to pick up on their pace. I don't know if you find this when you're speaking Spanish, but and so I have to sort of check in with myself and know that I actually normally speak, I'm now aware of my pace, but I normally speak English quite slowly, and I've always been happy with that. And people often remark on the fact that I speak quite slowly, even though my voice is quite high. And amazing what you just said. Yeah. Because you find yourself then caught up, and then I get myself in a panic because I can't express myself because I don't have the vocabulary, it's not coming fast enough, and I have to stop, take a breath, stand back, and sort of almost ground myself and reassure myself that it's okay just speaking how I speak. Mm-hmm. And so that's huge, what you just said. So thank you.
And how you speak is how we should be speaking. You're right. You have a natural calmness that Mother Nature gave you in how you've been raised, even right back to your birth. Sometimes we get set, like our birth experience. There's a huge amount of adrenaline that goes into baby systems when a baby is being born, as much as an adult having a heart attack. And it is designed to be that way. It's that's amazing. We need that. But then the body needs to regulate and modulate. And some babies, you'll notice, have kind of a tone of stress already in their little bodies. And perhaps it's because they haven't been met and engaged with in the way that they needed to, but also in who they're around. So if their caregiver is in a state of nervous system hyperarousal, they're going to modulate to that and respond to that and become and mirror that. So you as an adult and me as an adult, if I'm around somebody who's like this, I try and modulate, because we want to resonate. We always are seeking to resonate. But it's like playing tennis with someone. It's like, wait, am I going to resonate up or down? Where am I modulating to? So hopefully people will learn to modulate to you, Claire.
Wow, Lucy, if I might, that's so fascinating about babies. When I think about my child being in neonatal intensive care for the first 11 weeks of his life, and now having autoimmune stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Later.
Is there a link? Is it also, the epigenetic environment, like the genetic expression, which can be turned on and turned off? That's such an important piece for autoimmunity. Is, sure, we've inherited this genetic code from our ancestors, but our stress response has the ability to support us in our modulation of the expression of our genetic codes. So
and then he came home to me, who was in a panic for the next 3 years that he was going to die every day. So, I mean, I don't think he lived in a very calm environment at all. Yeah.
Maybe, but then Marnie, and I know, you there are the stress-related adrenal burnout, but you don't talk fast. You're not, like, compared, for example, to these two lovely hairstylists that I have here who really are just like so exhausting to be around. Anyhow, yeah, good. So yeah, it's important. It's really important. Yeah, it's important and interesting. And the sharing of information is like all these aha moments, so that when we do this work, which is really simple, now we have a little bit more curiosity of like, wow, like how this is useful to our beings. All right.
I am so ready to move. I don't know about others, but I'm sitting here needing this. I just want to move. Exactly, Claire.
Go Marnie, go Marnie, go Marnie.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here with my leggings, but it's just how it is.
And Lucy, I also want to say that stuff about the vagal nerve is very interesting, because when Mick got back from his open heart surgery, he had a vasovagal syncope. He fainted. They didn't know if it was a stroke or what it was. He ended up in the hospital for another week. And so that's the vagal nerve, I think, just shutting down. Yeah.
So again, the guy who came up with the polyvagal theory, the social nervous system, Stephen Porges, Porges. And then, Stephen Porges. And then Peter Levine is also really important in this field. He wrote the book Waking the Tiger, which is all about kind of body work and releasing trauma through movement, through self-massage. So actually, we'll do the horizon one in a moment. We're going to quite quickly but softly go into some joint circling. And notice in your readiness to move, there may be a tendency to be a little pushy. So we might need to move, like I'm just walking a little bit, stepping my feet. Find your way into exhaling, making the exhale a little longer than the inhale. And notice immediately as we push the exhale to be longer than the inhale, that's helpful. That's really helpful in arriving. Circle your elbows. Oil and lubricate your elbow joints. Circle the other way. And breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Your focus is your exhale. And then swing the arms. Let's kind of repeat the right arm and give it a bit of momentum. Our body, we talked about this in the rhythm, and we can circle the other way. In the month where we were focused in on rhythm, a couple of months, rhythm is absolutely vital. So as you circle your arm, and I'm kind of stepping still, sorry, motorbike. I'm stepping side to side still. I'm just giving my body lots of movement. I'm trying to kind of throw my arm, but not push, but giving it momentum. And then one last time, circling the other way. And then releasing that. Take a breath, let some air out. And then circle the other arm. Letting it throw, if you can, throwing it up. And an exception to this rule would be if there's pain in one of the phases, go the other way. If there's pain in part of the movement, try to, for this class, try to avoid the pain. So you would be moving just a little bit less, kind of in a different range of movement. The reason that we would be avoiding pain is because that feeds into the nervous system in a way that can kind of entrench a pain cycle, as opposed to finding ways to move into the comfort, which then shifts the brain, also knowing that it's balancing into the good feelings, the good sensations. So throwing now your index finger, your middle finger, this shaking movement, and really feeling the nourishment into the wrists as well. The ring finger, nice big exhale, and the little finger. Shake the whole arm, and then actually let's shake the body. So this shaking movement discharges the sympathetic anxiety. So quite often after some kind of trauma, the body will need a little bit of shaking to release some of that pent-up energy. And it is not, pent-up energy is the unscientific way of saying the very, very real sympathetic activation that's in our bodies, in our nervous systems, that can be expressed and discharged through shaking. And as we do this, exhale with some sound. And exhale and feel your diaphragm soften and spread. Feel with your mind your intention. Couple more breaths. And again. And keep doing this if it's helpful. I'm going to move to thinking as I am shaking and invite you to do the same, to think about shaking and releasing the low back. And I'm going to bring my hands like so. And with the back of my hands, creating friction, and search a little bit. Where do your hands need to be? Do they need to be up a little higher towards the lower ribs? Not too high, I don't want you reaching, but into the lower ribs, or just a tiny bit lower where it's a little bit softer. Go where they need to go and trust. Cultivate trust. Trust in your own instinct of the simplicity of where your hands need to be as you do this movement and as you create warmth into the back of your body, into these big, amazing back muscles that support you all day, and into your kidneys. And exhale in the relief of being here and moving and giving yourselves this time, showing up, being here. And then just releasing your hands. Let's bring our hands here. We're going to keep shaking. Remember to keep the exhale nice and long. And again, just friction with the heels of your hands onto your thighs. And perhaps they need to be here, perhaps more into the buttocks. front of the thighs. Let's warm this area up, if you haven't already, at the front of your thighs and into the groin area. And then let's use the kind of knife edge of the hand coming into the liver channel, the liver meridian, and you can wriggle your hips. And this groin area is so important in how much moves. Keep doing this movement, but so much is moving from the abdominal aorta, bringing blood into the legs, passing underneath strong inguinal ligaments in through here. We also have the front of the hip joints in here, and we've got vessels coming back up as well. So warming up this area, opening the groin is good work. And then I want you to gently, gently soothe. Bring the intention of a gentle and loving touch. Feed your body with self-care, appreciation. And then just bring your hands to your knees, and let's just rub the knees and bend up and down a little to the sides of the knees. Just circling the fingers around the kneecaps and then slowly coming up to bring your hands to your hips. Actually, let's do this with holding on to something, unless there's nothing too close to you. But we're going to balance on one leg, and I'm just, for the sake of showing the camera, lifting my leg this high. You're going to have your leg just an inch off the ground. You're just circling one ankle and circling the other way. And then shake your leg. Shake the whole leg and feel the ankle joint go floppy. Shake behind you. Shake in front of you. And then swing your leg. Find the rhythm in the swing. The knee can be a little bent. And as we take the leg behind us, be sure not to arch too much into your low back. So I just want the movement in through the hip joint, really giving some nourishment to the hip joint. Especially because the hip joint, as we get older, the movement that we start to lose is the movement back, movement of extension. So the leg swinging, putting some extension through our hip is like anti-arthritis work. And then releasing your leg and pausing for a second. Let's take 3 breaths. And then let's start the other side. You don't have to hold on to anything, but sometimes it's nice just to have that ease of support. Circling your ankle in one direction and the other direction. And the toes of the foot that's supporting you, spread them, relax them, don't grip. And then shake your leg. And you can shake the leg, the whole leg, especially letting the ankle joint go really floppy to release and create space through the joints of your leg. Leaning fully onto the side that's supporting you so that you can really create spaciousness in your hip and knee and ankle joint. Shake the leg forwards, backwards, and then swing the leg. And notice this side for me feels tighter, and I notice a little bit of a little strain, and so I'm being mindful in the way that I know that you are as well, to not push too much into my low back. Just finding the swing. And then releasing it. And I want to go into a really nice big stretch of triangle pose next, which I recommend if the wall is easily available to you, to do your posture up against a wall so that you can just lean into the wall and feel. It is nice sometimes to do these movements with support, so hence why we held something now perhaps up against a wall, and it is not going to ruin the movement if you don't do it up against a wall. But coming into the posture, so triangle posture, super simple, with the legs apart, both legs straight, arms rising and reaching over to one leg. And then if you have a wall behind you, you can just lean your hips into it in order to reach the top arm up and find the big breathing that is so beautiful in yoga. Big breathing and the big opening. Stretching one arm down, one arm up. And then coming into half moon. So you're going to reach a hand down on the floor, about a foot in front of your standing leg, and the other leg comes up. And because you're leaning against the wall, the balance aspect is simpler. And you can reach up, but reach down at the same time so that you're touching the ground with your fingers, but your other arm is reaching high. You're leaning back and rotating your chest open. And you're lifting your back leg as high as it can go. And breathing. And then slowly come down, carefully, carefully. Your transition is really an important phase of the movement. And then you're going to shift your feet. So your toes are facing the other direction to come first into triangle posture. The arms stretched out, beautiful. Reaching, the legs remain straight. Reaching down, reaching up, and then just adjusting yourself so that you can lean back against the wall. Perhaps even leaning your head against the wall behind you. And big breathing. Getting all the nooks and crannies open in your body that have been restricted. Lovely. Then coming into half moon, so you bend your front knee, you reach your fingertips down, you shuffle the back foot in close enough that it's really easy to lift it because all of your weight by the time you lift it is on your front leg. Arm goes down, the other arm reaches up, and you lean against the wall behind you, and your shoulder is over your wrist. Top hand, the palm faces forwards. The back leg is lifted as high as possible. You're breathing here. Long exhales. And then slowly coming down with the back leg, lifting your body. I want you just to take a little walk around. Notice how you are. Taking a moment. Brings a little bit of movement back into your hips with some circles. Circling both directions. And then bring your hands to your chest. You can keep swaying from side to side, or you can be still, just rubbing and soothing. Touch also is a really important aspect of soothing and regulating our bodies. Just finding the places along the front of your body, maybe a couple of places, just rubbing. The side of the body as well. Closing your eyes and just feeling. Let yourself feel and receive the gifts of the felt sense. And then bring your hands to your neck and just rub the neck. Rub the sides of the neck. And under your ears, you will find kind of a bony prominence, which is part of the skull, and it's called the mastoid process. And that bony prominence, the sternocleidomastoid, which is this muscle that comes down the throat in big, strong bands, it's one of the places that it attaches, and it's such a strong muscle. And then if you go just a little bit back, just behind that bony prominence, you get into the base of the temporal bone, back of the temporal bone. And then if you keep going back, your anatomy changes and you start, as you come to the back of the cranial base, your hands are touching the base of your occipital bone. So many muscles attaching to the base of the skull. And as we bring the hands, we bring them back forwards towards the mastoid process of the temporal bone. It is this area here, down and out of which the vagus nerve is moving, that we've talked about today. Traveling down your throat into your body. Let's just bring our fingers, let's lift the chin and bring our fingers just along the line of the throat, either side, just soothing it. A couple of you mentioned throat, and let's just think about soothing the throat. Our channel of expression, passageway for food and air, the place through which all the fluid that goes into the head and drains out of the head must pass. The immune support of the lymphatic chain that's in your neck. The thyroid gland, which supports our metabolism. The tiny little parathyroid glands either side of the thyroid. which support calcium levels in the body. And then bring your hands just down to the base of your throat and rub gently here at the top of your sternum. And then coming down just a little bit, and under your sternum, you have just a small part left of your thymus gland, which as a child was a vital immune supporting gland. And there is something quite nourishing about just remembering these structures that were there supporting you as a child. So much of the way that we respond to the world is still through the lenses and the adaptive responses that we set up as infants and children. So perhaps recalling a time as a child when your immune system had to work hard, and just being thankful for this place in your body, the thymus. And then just letting that go as you just travel down with your fingers just down along the line of your sternum. And finding where your ribs meet at your sternum. So feel the bony protrusions of your ribs. A lot of the time when we think about ribs, we think about them at the back of the body. And so use this now as a breathing exercise, exhaling. Soft sighs with your exhale. Soft sighs, letting the grief have space to move with the breath. To move out, to find its expression. Not to be suppressed, for in grief and sadness there is a depth of understanding how much something matters, how much love we have. So the grief is to be tended. And then we're going to come into a movement to open the rib cage. We're going to bring our arms up as we step forwards and down. The arms go up as we step forwards, whole front body opens, and then the hands come down. And you might want to let the arms swing so there's a little bit of this rhythm to it, or you might want to just move the hands quite slowly. Just simple movements, stepping forwards and back. And the hands can start to open out to the sides if you wish, or they can go straight up. And then we're going to be intentional. We're going to bring the fingers and the thumb together, and we're going to gather in and open, and at the last moment, open the fingers, and then just releasing the hands. Gathering in, more of a sense of spreading our wings and casting away that which does not serve us. Gathering in, and just like you're sowing seeds to be thrown to the wind, letting go. And you can do this at any level of the body. You can bring your hands to your solar plexus, to your chest. Anywhere that feels like it's holding some restriction, you just want to cast to the wind, to be relieved of. This is a beautiful movement practice. And as you do this, remind yourself that you are in a safe space. Let yourself be creative, curious, perhaps even a little playful There is no right or wrong way here. There is just the curiosity to notice in your body the places that perhaps have been storing patterns of tension that you would prefer not to have right now. Let's do it one more time on each side, or a little longer if you choose. And then just come to standing, either standing still and just noticing how you are, or you can just take a very slow little walk around to notice how you are. And in a second, we're going to do our space clearing. And we're going to really do the work of cultivating sacred and safe space for ourselves, first and foremost, because we do this work for ourselves, but with the benefit of any others who are coming into your lives, any guests, loved ones, our pets, spirits, ancestors, the land around us, honoring the land. So let us stand in one direction. Traditionally, we would start in a space clearing with standing to where the sun rises to the east. And just noticing in our mind's eye where east is. And then I want you to just move in a circle. And in a second, we'll use our hands, but just walk in just a slow circle. And feel into the space around you now. Notice your space. Feel into the silence of the space around you, the stillness of the room. And then I want you to put your hands, palms facing down, out in front of you. And I want you to feel, to feel the air that your hands move through. With a curiosity of, what am I feeling in my hands? What do I notice? Can I imagine that the air around me is like a bed sheet where I may feel crinkles and ripples, and I am smoothing the air under my hands. I am smoothing this air to clear this space around me. Walking so slowly, with love for your space. Love for the space that you get to call your own, where you are safe. And then find your way back to your eastern starting point. And let's very slowly draw a star. So with the index and middle finger, activate and imagine that you have something beautiful coming from, some kind of healing energy coming from your index and middle finger that you can emblazon and decorate a star into the space around you that will hold sacred the space around you. And just draw a couple of times. And just like drawing with water, it leaves no imprint other than just the beauty and the intention that you paint into your room. Cultivate an intention for this practice to be whatever you need it to be. So that the intention comes from your heart and is pure and starts to permeate the air around you. And then find your way to face south and draw a star. And if you want, you can connect the stars, whatever you feel called to do as you draw these sacred stars with a pure heart. And then when you're ready, you can slowly find your way to face west. Moving with your wise woman within you, activated with flow, with grace. And exhaling. Let the exhale be longer, so that the remaining charges that are still in your body can dissipate. And when you're ready to move around to face north, perhaps connecting the star to this next one, and then starting a northern star. And then finally turning back to the first direction and draw one more star. And then I want you to walk around the space in whichever direction you would like. And then just start to move your arms so that both arms are activated. Your left arm too can just open as though you're just receiving and giving into the space. The beauty of you, this is your space. Showing the air and the wind, the trees outside, that you are pure of heart. You are kind. And then I want, if you would like, you can keep doing this, or you can kind of spin. Just let yourself spin a few times like a child, just dancing into the space, let your arms fly, move your feet, and feel the freedom of just twirling. Let yourself twirl. Be free in your space. Be a little bit silly, perhaps. Couple more times. And then find your way to just standing and noticing how you are. Notice the stillness in the room, in the outdoors. And ever so gently smooth your hands once again. With gratitude for this beautiful space that is your home, that is the place where you stand right now. And then just bringing the hands level approximately with your hips. And stand in the space. Noticing the space in front of you, behind you, to the sides. Bend your knees slightly. Soften the legs. Lengthen your exhale. And then reaching down to the earth, drawing up to the level of your hips or your belly button. An energy which you then are just going to push forwards, pushing your hands out. And then your palms flatten, your fingers reach out around you as though you are reaching out to the horizon all the way around you. So your mind's eye goes wide to the horizon and your fingertips energetically reach to the horizon. Then you bring the hands forwards and you pull the palms in towards you and let it go. Reach down, scoop up to your chest, and then push the palms forwards. Let the palms go flat, reaching the fingers out, seeing the horizon, feeling it in your being, and feel the spaciousness of the horizon permeate you, gently bringing your hands back forwards when you feel ready, and then bringing the hands in towards you and letting that go. Reaching down once again, bring your hands just a little higher in your chest, and then push the palms forwards. Flatten the hands, fingertips, trace the air around you, feeling the space that you stand in, feeling the horizon. Letting the hands come back and drawing the hands back, bringing energy in and releasing. Scooping from the earth up through the body to your forehead or your throat, wherever you feel like you want to go. You can use this at any level. Push forwards, palms go down. Imagine the third eye opening, the mind opening. The mind connecting with the space around you. Palms come back in, and then we bring the hands back, and the hands go down. And then we can reach the arms up and draw energy or chi down from above. Come back to the forehead and push forwards. And it has just a different quality to it. Push forwards into the space around you. Turn the palms to face flat. Trace the horizon. Open the arms. Bring the arms slowly back into center towards you, and then palms face in and gather energy in, and then the palms just simply go down. Reaching up once again, drawing chi down to the chest or the throat if it feels like it needs it. Push forwards, palms facing out, and then let the hands go flat. Create space. Arms going wide. And then the hands bringing energy back to your being, releasing. Reaching up once again. Drawing energy down. Down to the level of your solar plexus. Push out. Let the palms go flat. Find the horizon with your spacious mind and your spacious being. Arms reach out around you. And forwards and in and down. One more, reaching up. Bringing the hands slowly down to your belly, to your pelvis perhaps, and then pushing forwards from there. Palms go flat. We find the stillness in the room around us and the horizon. Hands coming back in and letting that go. Bring your hands one on top of the other. Elbows are relaxed. Level with your diaphragm, or maybe your belly, or maybe even your chest. But I want you to imagine you're placing your hands on a walking stick. And you lean forwards a little so that you can lean into your walking stick and activate the sense of the base of that stick down on the earth. And just stand. Eyes can be open or closed. And feel your connection to the place that you're in. The land around you, the geography of your place. And let yourself be open to receiving any healing that you need right now. Be open to receiving. All right, there we go, I'm back. Looks like who's still here? Ah, there we are. Sorry about that. I lost you. So let's just take a moment. Just bring your hands to your heart. And before we have a final check-in, just remind yourself, close your eyes, just remind yourself that there is safety here, that there is nourishment in connection, and that your ears are for receiving, for listening. And so we give each person the space to be heard. Each of you will have the space to be heard. And what you say doesn't need to be wise, intelligent. It is simply a reflection of what you hold in your heart in this moment. And so there is a simplicity in that as you offer up how you are. We create space. We create space to be heard, Space to listen, space for our voices. There is no hurry. There is space to speak with breath in between words at the end of sentences, as well as a little bit of playfulness. It doesn't need to be serious, and it can be serious. It can be, it just is what it is. What it is. So then let's do our final check-in. And then a couple of ohms just to close our class today. Who would like to chat first? Polly.
I'll go first, just to say how lovely it was to have you on. I could hear.
So as we finish up together, we're going to do ohms. So as I was just saying, just as a way of coming into resonance. That's what it is, a way of coming into resonance with our voices as our goodbye. And so actually today, let's just finish after the ohms just with silence. Let's just, this sound, nothing more, just the sound is our connection, our place of just connection, and that's enough. And this one time years ago, I was in a healing center and one of the other therapists hit a gong or a chime, and I saw the sound in the air. I saw it rippling through, and I could see how clearing it was. And it only ever happened that one time, but it was beautiful to see it and to realize that perhaps every time we send our voices with intention or hit a chime with intention, that it can clear in that way. So before we do our ohms, is there any extraness of words or sharing? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm going to put my hands on my diaphragm, I think, and my heart. So if you feel as though there's a place that still needs that little bit of nourishment, just closing your eyes, or have your eyes open but gaze just towards the floor, and just feeling the presence of each other. Feeling presence, feeling the connection and the nourishment into our beings and souls. Soft breath in, just with a very gentle sigh, no big sound. Remembering that our exhale is our key into the vagus softening. A couple more times, the exhale just being softer, longer. And then just 3 ohms. Breath in. Oh. The next breath can just be quiet. And I want you to imagine that your sound goes out into the space around you as this beautiful ripple, clearing. Let's om again, a breath in. Oh. And then just one more. Oh. Just breathing. Feel the stillness of the space around you and the connection. And the connection is here whenever you need connection. Please reach out, watch a video, be in connection with each other, with me. Bye, everyone.